Welcome to the Libido Lounge, where we focus on all things love, lust, and libido. We believe that fabulous sex is important to health as exercise and good food. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Libido Lounge. I'm your host, Dr. Diane, and I am so excited for this conversation today. This is a very dear friend and couples relationship and pussyology expert. We're going to talk about what that means today. So Sierra Sullivan has such a rich background. We're going to get into that. But first of all, welcome. I'm so happy to be here with you, Sierra.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm super excited for our call or our connect today, our chat, or whatever we're going to do.
Yeah. Well, let's dive right in. So I already said this word pussy, that I know some people are still, a lot of people actually are still having a lot of negative reaction around this word. So when we talk about the science of pussyology, and we're going to get into what this means and how it's connected to healing from genital shame and helping us love our body and helping us have fuller expression as women in this world. But let's break that down, I think, and start with some of the shame behind this word. And I just wanted to open this up before we get into like the depths of what this is and why it's so helpful for healing from shame and genital image. So can you kind of break down the word pussy and how you started a, say, different relationship with that word?
That's a great question. And yes, that word still absolutely hits people in a spot that can be super uncomfortable, especially if you're not in circles where it's being used a lot. Like I have had the pleasure yeah, it hit me weird the first time too, however many years ago. And I feel it's because it's been used as a slang. It's been used as a slur. It's been used in porn. So until we reclaimed it fully, and I have to give credit where credit's due in many ways. There is a book by the name of Pussy, a reclamation written by
Love it.
Regina Thomashower. She put pussy, that word, back on the map. It happened to coincide at the same time that the Pussy Hat Women's March was marching on Washington, the same time a former president who was running at the time got in sort of trouble for using the word pussy. So it all coalesced. So it felt like to me that word had a heyday in media in a way that we'd never seen before. And that allowed people to have righteousness around it, have reclamation around it, and really have a shift around that word. And it started to get through spam filters and be used more because it was news. It was newsworthy between the book and then that news segment and everything else. So whether you like the word or not, being able to feel and notice what's going on in your body when that word is said gives a litmus test for where you might have some work to do or some opening to do around how you might feel even about your own pussy.
That's so helpful. And you're giving me chills. I did not realize the timing of all of those things coming together was like, that feels just so divine, right? Of
Yeah.
this reclamation, really, as the book title says.
Yep.
So is that like, can you tell us then about how this work around the art of pussyology? Like, how was that born? Can you let our listeners know? I think, like, let's start with what is it? And then just for everybody that's listening, as we talk through some of this, make sure you hang on because we're going somewhere here. We're going to talk about how this amazing art form that Sierra does and offers to the world is something that can actually really help heal from things like shame. And it's amazing how much shame I find that we have lodged in our system, hijacking our amygdala, keeping us out of our pleasure centers. And this is one amazing way into healing from that shame. So just stay with me as we're getting to kind of the background here. And can you walk us through some of the background of this science, this art, and how it was born?
Yeah, it has more of a mystical than a scientific, but it was born out of me. Okay, so I'll do my best to do the cliff notes because it is quite a story and
Okay.
a story worth telling. But for the time we have today, I'm gonna do my best to guide the significant points. Um, in 2016, I had been up in 3 years or so, 3 or 4 years leading up to 2016, been running a massive event called Fun, Fabulous, and Feminine for women to reconnect with our pleasure and our power and our femininity and our magic, and really leaning into that side of our essence to create from, especially in our businesses versus the masculine side that is so good at structures and getting things done. So that was my body of work for many, many years. But what I found was that the very thing that I was teaching, there was a maybe 20% incongruence for me in the model I was using to get that message out and get those teachings out. And it was, when the universe sends you signs and sends you signs, and if you don't listen, we hear often, oh, you get hit in the head with a 2x4, right? It's like, I wasn't really listening. I was I was in this like, I'm going to charge ahead and make this thing work. Well, the universe sent me multiple signs, like really like a lot of signs. And I was so in my masculine at the time that I could see the signs. I was acknowledging the signs, but I was not listening or taking action on the signs. So long and the short of it is, in March of 2016, I had my big event, and it was a big flop because all of these things converged to show me that I was off my path, truly. So I blew up my business. I blew up that brand. I said, I'm not going to do that. And then I decided to become a nobody and a nothing for a while, like not try to build a personality brand, not try to be somebody in the world, not try to be in the spotlight, but to actually listen to my inner knowing. Well, that inner knowing is really what I like to refer to is our, it's like our pussy knowing. It's our feminine knowing. It's the guiding force when you're really tapped into feminine intuition. You can't leave pussy out, but we'll come back to that. So I didn't realize that I was following my pussy truly at the time, but I took like 4 months to just become nobody and see what would happen. Like if I was like, could I do an experiment and be me more without trying to be me as a thing in the world? And could I then let that be something that could serve and support me? It was definitely a grand experiment. But I got quiet enough and I was still enough and listening enough, because I took away all that static and all that noise of trying to build and grow and market and all the things, so that pussy could really show me. And the long and the short of this story is, many magical things started to show up for me that started pointing me towards what is now pussyology, what I would now consider pussyology. Took me a while to figure out what was being shown to me ultimately. But one night in September of 2016, so 4 months later, how many months that is, I was shown very clearly this ritual that is become the pussyology ritual. And I was given literally a download from spirit, from an amalgamation of things, that if a woman's not feeling great about her pussy, I would take her through this ritual. I would sit her down. I would sit in front of her pussy. I would share what I saw. And that's what happened. This one night I had this guidance, and I did this with this woman, and it became very clear that what was happening was transforming her shame. She had physical scar tissue that I'd never seen before. I'd not even seen a lot of pussies up until then, up close and personal. It was just one of those. I mean, I'd taken a couple of Regina's courses and I was on the path, but that ritual, that magic that kind of showed up and led me to do that with that woman, really helped me see that if you simply give that part of a woman's anatomy attention with love and adoration, and no need to touch anything, give pleasure, take pleasure, nothing, like just complete neutral, loving, holding space, much like we give to each other when we're in women's circles, right? There's something magic about what happens when you're in a women's circle, just by getting witnessed and held and supported, right? Not trying to fix or do anything. Same thing. Pussy is very much the same. And I was shown very clearly there is a story that your pussy has to offer. So that was the beginning of that journey. And then I was like, that the way that transformed that woman so much in a heartbeat, like it was like instantaneous self-love that she felt for herself. And she'd been working on her self-love and her body image for a long time, long time. So I was like, okay, I'm onto something here. But what is that something? And what do I call it? And how does this help people? And I felt very protective and very reverent of what had just been shown to me. but without going into too much detail for the sake of, this space today, what I found ultimately was that by looking at pussy with loving eyes, there is a divine design, unique divine design that each of us has between our legs that absolutely gives messages, codes, symbols, archetypes, and a storyline. If you sit and look long enough, it's kind of in a way like tea leaf reading, where you can decipher things and pull on intuition and see images that, or looking at clouds almost, right? But what's unique is that these images and messages and archetypes and codes and things that come through always relate back to that woman's story. There's symbols that have been meaningful to her whole life that all of a sudden I'll say, your pussy's showing me this. And she'll be like, oh my gosh, that's been a thing for me my entire life. Or your pussy shows me, and I'm like, are you a Taurus by chance? Because I'm getting, kind of like a Taurus bull. Oh yeah, I'm a Taurus, right? It doesn't always line up that perfectly, but pussy has been in the dark, literally. Vulva, flowers. We like to call sacred portal. I like to call it sacred portal, but there's a lot of words. But she, it, they, whatever, has been in the dark. We haven't looked. We're not looking a whole lot as women for whatever reason. We're shameful. We're squeamish. It's hard to do without a mirror or now a phone. These are very helpful. And can you imagine, it's the OG Stargate. All human life has come through this portal by design. And we're not giving this part of our body a voice, whether it be listening to her, listening to what she has to say, or me, because I'm visual, looking to see what she has to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll pause
I
there.
can feel, thank you so much. I can feel I'm getting like waves of chills, and I imagine other people are too, because as you describe it, it's so easy for me to like connect around this area of the female body that is, like you said, like for many people, never even been looked at, or maybe looked at once. And for almost everybody, only seen their own, unless they're typically with other women.
Yeah.
And in that scenario, to all of a sudden actually be blessed with, hey, this area actually is connected to this code of who you are, and then see it as, wow, that's a message, and that message is beautiful. So that must mean, oh, my pussy is beautiful, right? And it is really sad. Like, I don't know if I told you a story of this, like every once in a while when I'm like going back and reviewing female anatomy just for my own work, I get like so turned on just by even looking at like anatomy pictures online, like not even real women, like anatomy pictures. And I've had times where I get so turned on that I have to go masturbate, like right then and there. And so I can imagine, right, the change that happens for the individual when they can be bestowed this beautiful message. And all of a sudden, if there is this body shame,
Mhm.
see that shift. I mean, I could see how that could happen instantaneously. So
Mhm.
who is this really, like, in people that are listening and like, wow, this is interesting, right? Like I
Mhm.
think there's a lot of people that are probably like listening and think this is interesting. Who would you say like this art form is for?
Um, what I would say is it's for either, I mean, it's for anyone really who wants to get to know and have a deeper relationship with that part of themselves, period, or shift the storyline. But it's great for women who are super curious. And it's also really great for women that are pussy positive, already on the path, because they can take their knowledge and their strength around this, and they can add the skill set into their repertoire to then, go deeper or bring it to their, if they have a retreat or teachings or circles or whatnot. So it's kind of, I think I've got something for everyone. What our main mission is to eradicate shame, hone our intuition, and empower women around the world to change the conversation that we have from a negative perception to not just a positive one, but one where we can see the magnificence of ultimately mother and mother codes and mother energy and divine feminine, and value her because she is so mysterious and magical. So
Perfect. Yeah. And I want to circle back around too to something else you said about sisterhood and about that witnessing, right? Because it's something I've noticed in dance classes and sensual dance classes or pole dancing classes I've taken where you just get witnessed in like this rawness of emotional or sensual expression, and there's no right or wrong, and you just get witnessed by
Mhm.
other women. And it's
Yeah.
crazy how profound that witnessing can be. And so can you talk a little bit about like that and what you know like notice in your work? Like where does the circle of sisterhood come in? How does that play in? What have you noticed as far as healing from a standpoint of shame, of creating more of this body love and this internal love and safety and all those things? Where does the circle of sisterhood play a role in your work?
That is such a great question. And I have found that, I mean, I've been a big proponent and guide in the realms of women's circles. So, in and of itself, it's just a magical tool, as I mentioned, and you just spoke to as well. The one thing that's really healing is having sisters that are able to look upon you with loving eyes and witness this very private part of your body and have them reflect back what they see. And then if you have a group and each woman gets a reading, for example, or a little mini reading, because there's only, a full reading it could be hours of time because there's so much pussy wants to share with us when we give her the space. And she needs the space. She wants the space. She requires the space, right? The
Doesn't
more
want
you
to
look, the more you learn, the
rest.
more she reveals, the more, right? There's a lot to do with spaciousness. But the one thing I've noticed when I've done groups where there's a couple of women in a row that will get a reading, either online or in person, women are beside themselves in the best way when they realize every woman's pussy design is unique as their face, as unique as their fingerprint. No two pussies are alike. They might look a little similar, have a little vibe, kind of like, oh, you remind me of my cousin, you remind me of my best friend, right? But they're unique. They're as unique as your fingerprint. And each one is so beautiful and has its profound stories that it wants to share. So when you have a few of them that happen to be, shown in a row, everybody's lit up. Women are like upping each other. They're feeling so connected, so excited. They're breaking through their barriers, their beliefs, their body shame. I mean, it's like it's magic. It is truly like the fastest thing I've ever seen. And like I said, I've been leading women's circles for almost nearly 20 years in some form. And when you're sitting together with women talking about or even talking about, but looking at our portals, it bonds them like no other, right? There's just no more hierarchy. Everything's just like, oh, what else? Who else? Show me yours, show me mine, show me yours. It just becomes this really powerful connector.
Yeah. Oh, I feel it too. I feel it
Mm.
too. And I think you said it like so well, right? When we see that each one of us is so unique in these ways, and instead of comparing, it's like it helps with that celebrating, right? It's like, oh, we stop that comparing and we realize we get to celebrate all of our own uniquenesses and beauties. So I just love it so much. And so if people are like hearing this, because I know sometimes hearing the word pussy alone, like we started this episode with, can already be like, sometimes for people to hear. Now we're talking about the messages in the pussy and looking at each other's or, getting pussy readings from you. And so from that standpoint, if somebody wants to take that initial like first step around like, wow, this sounds really interesting, but I'm a little scared and I'm a little timid. What is a
Mhm.
way into your portals? What is a way into your work that is kind of that toe dip to just get people just started and acquainted before, going a little bit further?
That's great. And we've created this just for that very woman who feels exactly as you described. We have a free mini course, which is self guided, and it's called the Love Your Yoni mini course. And that allows you to um, take 3 different modules of education and exercises that we invite you to participate in. The first one is getting to watch this incredible movie, this 8-minute film called The Secrets of the Yoniverse, where that film alone is an alchemical transmission. So if you're anyone that feels squeamish particularly about or feels judgment about how pussy looks, if you've been conditioned in that way or have had experiences that have had you feel that way, that film alone will have you literally see the divine design of pussy in a completely different way. Like, I don't even have to say anything. That film transmutes things. So you'll get a chance to watch that, and then you'll be guided along the next 2 modules to go out and do some nature yoni safaris, which will make sense when you see the film, and do some journaling and get connected with your own pussy. I don't want to give too much away, but it's a
Yeah.
perfect place because you don't have to show up with other women. It just gets delivered to your inbox, and you can take it at your own pace. And then there is a Facebook group that you could come and be a part of if you want to share what you're learning and discover and meet some of the other women along the way.
Amazing. And so you guys will have all of that in the show notes from today. And definitely make sure you read over Sierra's bio too, because there's so many things she offers. Like in addition to the ssyology and various types of women's empowerment work and circles, she also is a co-founder of Eden World, which is work with couples and helping couples have more loving and deeper relationships. I've done some work with her in that program, and it's just absolutely amazing. You get like 5,000, bazillion stars and reviews from me. So
Oh.
definitely go check that out, you guys too. That is in there as well. And before we wrap up today, do you have any like final words of wisdom you want to leave with us?
Mm. We live in a time where, while women have come so far in so many ways, we still haven't really fully realized our fullest expression. And I believe that that is because that part of our bodies is still not getting its due attention or its due listening. And I see where the way we treat our planet as a whole, the way we treat our mothers as a whole, the way we devalue, stay-at-home moms because of the get out there and make money, ladies, and all of that, for better or for worse, for good or for whatever. However, I truly believe that when we develop a right relationship to our bodies, for sure, as a whole, but inclusive of and very particularly our pussies, and the more women that claim and understand the divinity that is between our legs, the more we will see an outward shift in how the whole of humanity gets treated and treats our planet. It's such a pivotal piece. And I used to think we could be separate from pussy, and that was a thing. And it was more about all the whole body and the whole thing. I'm like, but we got to have, I've met a lot of women who are empowered in their body, but don't have an empowerment around their pussy. And you can see the distinction. So we owe it to ourselves to get in right relationship. And when that happens, the world will change for the better, guaranteed. I can see it already happening in small pockets. So I want to leave everybody with that
I couldn't agree.
invitation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree
Mhm.
more. What a great way of leaving this. And with that, that's a perfect lead in to reminding everybody that this year we're inviting whoever gets like the most shares, the most downloads, we're inviting them back at the end of the year for a super deep dive on all of the favorite topics. So make sure you share this episode with your friends and download it and all that, because I would really like to have you back, Sierra, and talk like so much deeper. I know there's so many different ways we can go with this conversation and help a lot of people around this mission of really reclaiming ourselves and really reclaiming our feminine. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. Yay.
You're welcome. And everybody, we'll see you next time. Thank you again for your attention today. It's Dr. Diane, your libido doc, reminding you to always stay classy, always stay sexy, and always be a little badassy. We'll see you next time.